Hello, and thank you for choosing to participate in this research study titled Investigating User Experience of a Multimodal Search Interface. I am the researcher, Soham Singh, and this is an introductory video explaining the purposes of this research and outlining what you will be asked to do today. Before proceeding, please ensure that you have read and signed the informed voluntary consent form at the start of the survey. If you have not done that yet, please do so now. If you have read the form and do not agree with the terms, please do not proceed further. In today's experiment, you will be asked to use a search engine to perform a number of tasks and then complete a survey along with it. Many of you would have already used popular commercial search engines such as Google or Bing. The search engine that you will be using today has been made specifically for the purposes of this research. In particular, what you will be asked to pay attention to is bias in the search engine. So what is bias in a search engine? To illustrate this, we have an example. Let's say there is a person named Jane. Jane's job is to write about movies on the internet. Jane writes about a large variety of movies of all genres, but Jane's favorite genre of movie is action. Whenever Jane writes about action movies, Jane describes them with positive words like exciting, fun, and enjoyable. Jane also happens to hate comedies. When Jane has to write about a comedy, she usually describes it as boring or annoying. If someone was to search through Jane's movie write-ups online, it would be more likely that they see Jane's action write-ups rather than Jane's comedy write-ups, due to how Jane describes action films more positively than comedies. In other words, Jane has allowed her bias of liking action films over comedy films to affect how likely it is for comedy film write-ups to be found in the search engine. This is an illustration of how bias in a search engine exists and can be applied to many types of information far beyond the scope of movie write-ups. This project aims to investigate how this bias can be mitigated by allowing the user of a search engine to control the settings of a search engine that are usually not made available to the user. This research will investigate whether through the control of these settings, the user is able to identify whether certain settings can have a biased effect on the search engine, and whether they can mitigate this bias by choosing settings they prefer. The search engine that you will be using houses both text and image information. The information is related to African heritage and is provided by the Archive and Public Culture Research Initiative at the University of Cape Town. The tasks that you will be asked to do with the search engine will require you to submit what are known as queries to the search engine. A query is a set of words or a phrase that are used by a user when trying to acquire new information about some topic. Keeping in line with the example of Google and Bing, an example of a query would be what you would enter into the search bar of these search engines in order to acquire information. The search engine is able to perform searches using text queries and image queries in order to get back text and image results that match that query, or in other words, are relevant to that query. There are different sets of settings available to you, depending on whether you'll be searching with text queries or whether you will be searching with image queries. These will be explained later. You will now be walked through what will be required of you in this experiment. You will notice that at the end of the introduction page of the survey, there is a link taking you to the search engine website. Clicking this link will open the website in a separate tab to allow you to work on it. You will be working on this simultaneously with the survey. Please remember to keep both tabs open at all times for the duration of the experiment. The search engine page will look somewhat like this. Note that your tasks may be different and your search method may be different. You will notice that on the left of your screen is an instruction window. Refer to this at all times to know what is required of you at the current point in the experiment in order for you to progress to the next step. Please note that you should not at any point refresh on this page, as this will reset the progress you would have made. Google Chrome is the recommended browser for the system. In the experiment, you'll be working through 4 tasks. 2 of the tasks will involve you searching with a text query, and 2 other tasks will involve you searching with an image query. To start with a task, click on it if it states that it's available. When you select a task, the query that is associated with it will be submitted to the system. The results of this will then be shown below. Note that there are also 3 different possible formats to view results in. These are viewing results as text, viewing results as images, and viewing results as both text and images. One will be selected for you by default initially. These results have been collected by the search engine using a fixed setting whose name can be found above the results column. Observe next to the results column is an empty column with a drop-down menu. This drop-down menu contains 2 settings that have been made available for you to potentially find different results to your query than in the column that is shown already. To fill this other column with results, simply select the first available setting in the drop-down menu. For information about these settings and the differences between them, click on the Explain button next to the drop-down menu. When you have selected a setting from the drop-down menu, you will notice the other column will have been filled with the results as well, with potentially different results to the first column. This will be because the 2 settings behave differently when finding results. It is your task to compare these results and determine which setting you prefer. When you are done, you must select the second setting from the drop-down menu and do the same comparison. After you select the second setting and compare the columns, formulate an opinion as to which setting out of the 3 you prefer the most and which setting you prefer the least. When you have done this, click on the Record Preferences for View button at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. When you do this, you will be asked to indicate which is your most preferred setting first. Simply type in the letter that corresponds to your favorite option and click OK. So if my preferred setting was setting A in this instance, I would type in A and then click OK. If you entered the wrong one, do not worry. You will be asked to confirm this. Simply cancel if you need to do this again or click OK to proceed. You will then repeat this, but instead indicating which is your least preferred setting. Note that when this is done, your ranking of the settings will appear in the feedback window to your right. This ranking would have been done for the current view of results. You will be asked to do this for all 3 different result formats. To move to the next result format, click on the button of the next available one. When you click on a new result format, you will observe that the column under the drop-down menu will clear its results. This is because you will repeat the procedure of selecting settings from the drop-down menu, deciding which settings you prefer and don't prefer, and providing this feedback to the search engine when complete. If at any point you would like more information about a result to determine if a setting has done well in finding it, you can simply click on it and it will open a page in a separate tab containing detailed information about that result. When you have completed giving your feedback for all 3 result views, you will observe a new button at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, this time saying Unlock All Result Views. Click on this and observe that the buttons to change the format of results are now all unlocked. When this is done, alternate between the different formats. Select settings from the drop-down menu to formulate an opinion as to which result format you prefer the most and which you prefer the least. When you know this, click the Submit Favorite View button at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and provide this feedback to the search engine. When this is done, it will be shown to you in your feedback window on the right of the screen. After you have done all of this, you will observe your feedback window containing your feedback for the settings for the 3 different result formats, as well as your feedback for which is your favorite result format. You will need this to now fill in the survey questions for this task. Return to the tab containing the survey and make sure to answer all the questions for this task. Your feedback in the feedback window will assist you in remembering the answer to some of these questions. When you have finished answering the questions for this task, return back to the Search Engine tab and click on the Next Task button. This is at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and will help you to proceed to the next task. This can be a lot to remember, so be sure to always be checking the instruction window for assistance for what you are required to do at any given time. This will always keep track of your progress and guide you on how to move to the next step. When you have completed the final task, click the Finish button at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You will be reminded to make sure you complete the conclusion section of your survey. If you have not done this, please switch to the Survey tab and complete the conclusion section. Be sure to submit this, else your session will not be accounted for unless you don't. We would like to thank you once again for your participation. Please proceed with completing the introduction page of the survey and then commencing with the experiment. If you encounter any trouble or have any questions, do not be afraid to contact the researcher.